The Dawntreader questline allows you to do a lot of different options throughout this questline inside of this cave. I'm going to give you the best options to help you throughout the later parts of the game, and also how to get the best rewards at the end of this, including a fire sword. Let's get into it. To find this questline, you first need to make your way towards the northern part of the map, and the fastest fast travel is going to be the Northern Farms Beacon. This is where you're going to be able to see very quickly on the map the Pilgrim's Path. Now in this area, you're very quickly going to come across a bunch of Zarups that you need to defeat, but the path is very straightforward as you see on your map, and eventually you're going to come across these two ladies arguing in front of a cave entrance. I highly recommend that you save before talking with them to make sure you get inside without any hassle. Now this conversation will go on for a little bit, but eventually you're going to be recognized by the guard on the left, and you'll also be able to give the options to basically boss her around to actually let you inside of this cave without any fuss, so it should be very easy to get into the cave, but save it just in case you want to go a different route and reload it back later if you don't like the outcome. Now in the cave, you very quickly come across two routes that you can take. One is to the right that actually takes you to the main part of the quest, or you go to the left to go to a different area of this entire cave, which allows you to get extra loot. And to open it, simply interact with the panel on the right with any electric spell or any electric grenade. This area has absolutely nothing to do with the questline, but again, it gives you extra loot and a little bit of a fight if you want to go into here. Now the route on the right is very straightforward, very beautiful if you take a second and look at all the scenery that they've created inside of just this cave, and you'll also very quickly come across a bunch of Zarups and hidden treasure that isn't anything special, but this is the main route you want to follow until you get to the area where you could break down some boards or a broken wall. Highly recommend the boards because you don't need to break down that wall at all. It's basically just a longer route, absolutely useless. But once you get through these boards, you'll actually start hearing someone talking to you to the ledges above. All you have to do is make your way past the water and booby traps that are electrifying, and you'll very quickly find a guy that is injured sitting on a ledge. This is actually going to be your first point of contention of whether you can save this man or kill him. He can give you some backstory about this quest if you really want to go into that, but the bottom line here is that you're either going to be able to save him or you're going to leave him to die. I highly recommend that you save him with either healing magic or a potion if you have either. Saving him will come later on in the questline after you do a majority of the quest, but I won't touch on that now. I'll save that to the end of the video. End of the day, it's up to you, but just keep in mind you will get some different loot depending if he lives or dies. Once you're done talking to the guy on the ledge, continue through this cave until you come across the main golden guy that is honestly the main part of this entire quest, and start having the conversation that he wants to have with you. Now you can go through all the dialogue with him if you want. It's a lot of backstory about himself, what you are as a god like, and all sorts of things, what he's trying to do inside of this entire cave. A lot of it isn't really all that useful. You can kind of get an understanding what you're walking into later on in the cave, but it's not going to change a whole lot on the outcome. However, at the end of this conversation, you do want to agree to help him fill the statue and get the artifact that is later on in the temple. Once you're done talking to him, simply follow the cave until you come across this giant room with a bunch of broken down pillars and the icon that shows you need to go and get the artifact underneath this arch. You can explore the cave a little bit to find some secret rooms, or you could just go ahead and get the Splinter of Ethos, that artifact that we're looking for. As soon as you do, you're going to have a small cutscene with the cave basically shaking, signifying that you've continued through the questline, but at the same time, when you go back to the main room, you're going to be attacked by a lot of undead skeletons that you have to defeat before you can move on with the quest. There will be a couple different waves of skeletons with a boss fight at the end that I won't spoil for you, but it is a good little fight. Once you have completed the fight, you will notice that the entire cavern that you just came from is flooded, allowing you to go to areas that you couldn't previously reach. But for this focus, we want to go and focus on the option that helps us find the missing expedition team, which is option B if you're tracking the quest. Now this is very easy to come across, but there are a few ways to actually get into this room. One is easier than the other. One is to simply follow the purple glow underneath these rocks to find a simple drop down entrance that gets you into the secret room, or if you want to, you can go and mess with a couple of switches to open up the secret door. In front of this door, you're going to see a couple different switches. All you want to do is hit the switch on the bottom right, and that will open up the secret door instead of triggering some traps that are going to shoot at you. Inside, you're going to find the dead expedition team and also a golden note that you want to pick up, because this is going to help you with a conversation with the guy that is golden inside of the main room to help you finish out this quest a little bit easier. Now you don't need this item, but it plays a little bit later in the quest with not only the next conversation that you're going to have, but an end conversation at the end of this quest line. It mainly gives other dialogue options. Again, this is up to you to get it or not. Once you have found everything you wanted from the cave, make your way back to the main room where you're going to see our big golden friend start praying to the idol that he created, and this is where you want to save before starting this conversation, because there are several different paths you can take. One is very simply, you just attack him and take all the loot from his body, and you don't really really progress anywhere else inside this quest line, and it's the easiest of the options if you can kill him. Just so you know, he is difficult to fight. Though the next two options are much more interesting and will give you better achievements. This is where finding the expedition team comes in handy, because you could basically call them out for killing them and putting their souls into the giant crystal inside of the statue that you see behind him that he was praying at before. This will easily trigger the next line of questions that he's going to ask you, which is essentially taking the artifact that you just got from inside of the cave and put it into the giant statue to help commune with his god Aothis, which is the fragment that you took from inside the cave. You want to actually help him put that stuff into the statue because this allows you to have two unique endings to this quest line. Now for both of these options, you still need to go and place the splinter of Aothis into the statue and also flip the switch. Once you flip the switch and nothing happens with the statue, this is where you're going to have to really make your decision on how this quest line is going to end. This is again why I've recommended that you save before you start doing this conversation with him, because you can go in so many different directions that don't lead up to these two options. The first option you're given if the statue fails is to give up your own soul to be put into the statue. Now this is just a crazy ending where it actually just kills you outright and you get nothing else from it besides an achievement, and you basically restart at the last save point that you had. Now the option that I recommend that also gives you the best loot, his flaming sword, is to kind of walk him down from actually doing this crazy plan and basically tell him that you need to be the one to go into the shrine, not me. That is going to be dialogue option number 5, as you just saw a second ago, and obviously he's not going to really go along with this right away, so you are going to have to basically reiterate why he has to be chosen, and that's going to be your next option, which is option 2. Aothis didn't keep me alive for 600 years, he chose you. This will guarantee that he will do the exact same thing that you could choose in the other option of basically killing himself and be used inside of the statue. Now your next dialogue options after that are basically just answering a question for him, and later on he just walks over to the same area that you saw earlier where you died and he dies instead. Now once you shock him to help progress the questline after you have chosen these options, you're free to loot his body and get his items. This is namely the Last Light of Day +2 sword, which is a unique one-handed sword that every time you hit something with it, it automatically turns them into flames, and really is a good unique sword, probably the best item you're going to get from this entire questline. This is why you want to go through this pathing. After that, you just follow the questline until the end, where you also have to interact with the statue once again. And after you interact with the statue one more time, you're actually going to be called over to this giant Adra crystal that you're going to interact with the soul that's inside your body. That is something for later on in the game. I actually don't know the exact outcome depending on what all your answers are inside of this questline are going to be later on in the game, but this conversation with the Adra crystal will absolutely shape that, because you have to give it two options of either giving it the ability to interact with the statue that you just put other souls into, or destroying the statue itself. Unfortunately, I don't know the later on outcomes in the game depending on either option that you pick. I will post a follow-up video letting you know what those outcomes are. Personally, I picked to let the crystal entity have the crystal statue, so we'll have to see what outcome that plays later on in my game. Once you are done looking through the entire cave for goodies and done talking to the crystal, make your way back to Paradise to finish up the questline. This is where saving that guy earlier on the ledge comes in handy, because you find out that he has a twin brother that was waiting for him after this expedition. They will simply thank you for saving him and wonder what happened to the rest of the expedition team and what you decided to do with the guy inside of the cave and the shrine, and if you decided to kill him or not. All this just shapes up to them giving you a unique ring. Now, a unique ring itself cannot be gotten unless you're basically just having a back and forth conversation on a positive side with these two, so keep that in mind when you're going through your dialogue options. Again, this is all up to you if you want to get it or not and how you want to go through this conversation. This is just the options I would recommend. The ring is called Delver's Caution and gives you +1 dexterity and 15% more parkour speed. A great ring if you are low on dex and you need to just have that in case you go across a quest line where you need more dexterity to get a dialogue option. Now, of course, the main option that you're really looking for inside of this quest line is getting that Last Light a Day one-handed sword. It has really good stats, especially you start upgrading it towards later on in the game, and its abilities are great as well with Golden Sun's Ascent and Dawn's Remembrance. Of course, all of these stats scale more and more the more you upgrade this, and of course you're going to have to really progress through this game anyway, so it's a great pickup early game. Now, this is the end of the entire questline, and depending on what you decide dialogue wise with every single character in here will, of course, as you see, shape how the questline ends. So I hope you picked the questline route that you wanted, and hopefully it has the impacts that you want later on in your game of Avowed. Obviously, save and quit and restart as often as you want to get the best outcome, but if you just want to be one and done, I highly recommend going through this strategy that I showed you here in this video. Now, if you did find this video helpful, make sure to hit the like, subscribe buttons down below so I know that you did find it helpful, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.